Okay, good afternoon. I'm going to call the regular Parks and Recreation Commission meeting for October 24th, 2012 to order. Would you all rise for the pledge, please? Ready, pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Ms. McGill, would you call roll, please? Here.
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 Okay, thank you very much, Ms. McGill. And I would like to welcome Councilmember Kathy Murillo to the meeting. Welcome. Thank you for coming. And we have an introduction to make here for our new youth intern, Kate Yee, and this is her first meeting, and we welcome you. And I believe Ms. Young has some things to say.
Madam Chair and members of the Commission, it's my privilege to introduce you to Kate Yee. At last week's City Council meeting, she was appointed as the new youth intern for the Parks and Recreation Commission. Kate is a Santa Barbara senior, and she comes with a lot of community and youth leadership skills and background. But I'll just tell you very briefly something that her school principal said about her. He says that Kate has always been enrolled in most rigorous programs of study and is one of the highest performing students in our school. But then he goes on to say that she's not only been a highly successful academic student, but she is also an excellent person outside of academics, always involved in school leadership, and cares deeply about the culture and the climate of the school, and I might add, community. She's also a member of the Santa Barbara Youth Council, currently serving on their executive board, and she is the treasurer and also the chair of their fundraising committee. And she's very excited and happy to be working with the Parks and Recreation Commission. She has no relations to Michael Yee, who was your intern last year, but she is just as well qualified and very excited to be. So I introduce you to Kate Yee, your new Parks and Recreation Commission youth intern.
Yay. Well, welcome aboard. I think we have in our packet your all the information on what you've been involved in, and it's very impressive, and I know that you will be a great asset to the commission. And we've seated you in between two commissioners, so you know, if you need help getting started, just they'll be happy to jump in and help you. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Do we have, Ms. Zachary, do we have any changes to the agenda? Okay. Or written communications? No. Okay. Anyone here for public comment on an item that's not on the agenda? Okay. Then we can move on from that. And we are on to the Youth Council report. So you're first up, Ms. Yee.
I would like to start off by saying thank you, everyone, for letting me in this position. I'm excited to participate and see what I can contribute. So first off, Youth Council members have begun our start of new activities for the school year. On October 22nd, we hosted a school board's candidate forum with the League of Women Voters, and it was very well attended. We currently have 3 vacancies for the Youth Council and 4 applicants. We have vacancy for DP High School, but have not received any applications for that school. This past weekend at the Youth Council held their annual leadership training, and it was a lock-in. We were able to have a lot of fun activities that taught us communication, teamwork, etc. One activity included trying to work together to pass an orange with only using our chins and necks. It was hilarious. We also had to work as a team to try and count from 1 to 14. It seemed easy, but it took a lot of teamwork. Overall, it went very well, highlighted by a visit from the mayor and the Parks and Rec Commissioner and the Parks and Rec Director, and an opportunity to ask them questions about leadership during our breakfast. We are applying for the Youth Making Change grant and hope to get funds to do a community anti-bullying campaign. So, that's
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Or comments? Okay, that was a great report. Thank you very much. Really good. Okay, so we're going to move on to the Commissioner Committee assignment reports, and I will start. We'll get to you later, Ms. Alley. Ms. Longstreet, do you have anything?
Well, I attended the Neighborhood Advisory Council meeting this month. Also stopped by and visited Lights On after school and was very pleased with seeing that program. I was impressed to see how hard all of the staff at Adams School was working and how well they were working with the children, and I commend everybody for putting that event together. I see some of the staff here today. Also attended the Lawn Bowls 75th anniversary on Saturday and learned a lot about lawn bowls.
How did you do?
Oh, I'm a natural. And we had many commissioners there, so I'm sure everyone will have a little something to say about that. And last night, along with you, I attended the hearing on the designation of the library trees as historic. So that was what I did this month.
Thank you very much. Mr. Trentacosti?
We didn't have a quorum for the Golf Advisory Committee, so there was no meeting, so there's nothing to report on that. But I also did attend the Lawn Bowl 75th anniversary and learned an awful lot, and I'm no competition for BB. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Casebeer, do you have anything?
Yes, I attended the Creeks Advisory Committee meeting where Mr. Benson reviewed the capital improvement program for this coming year, and I believe this evening we'll be having a complete report from Mr. Benson on this matter. I also attended the lawn bowling celebration for their 75th anniversary, and it was really heartwarming to see so many seniors involved and dedicated with this program, and I'm really excited. I had never really set foot on the bowling greens before, and these folks are really committed, and they want to see this program thrive, and I'd like to make a pitch for our community. Anybody that's interested in lawn bowling, please go down to the Louise Lowry Davis Center on De La Vina in Victoria. You're bound to find some good people to play with and have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casebeer. Ms. Gonzalez?
I did attend the youth council meeting, and pretty much Kate said everything that needed to be said on that, and I was able to attend the leadership training, and it was just a great experience altogether. Being able to see the hard work that Susan Young has put into the youth council, and just all of the youth council members just are so motivated and so dedicated to what they're doing and what they're going to do. So it was really a great experience.
Great. Thank you very much. Oh, Megan, yes, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Ms.
no
Alley.
problem. No problem. I attended the ribbon cutting out at Shoreline, which was a fun event.
I'm
Chair
sorry.
Wiscombe did a great
I
job
should have
of.
called on you for that, yeah.
She did a great job of remarking on all the important aspects of at Shoreline. It was just very educational and exciting, so I was happy to be a part of that. And I also attended the 75th anniversary celebration of the Santa Barbara Lawn Bowls Club. What a spirited bunch, old and young. And in fact, I know that they're trying to recruit some young individuals to participate. So get out there if you're interested. It's sure fun, relaxing, just a really good time.
Do they all wear white?
White was not required, but I think encouraged. And it's fun to wear white.
Okay. So when I lived in Australia, they all had to wear white. That was mandatory. So, okay, thank you. I apologize for missing you on that.
No problem.
I was thinking about the liaison assignment.
Exactly, I understand.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's see. I attended several of us attended the Santa Barbara Beautiful Awards, where Parks and Recreation won 3 awards, and that was a great ceremony and great to see. And along with Ms. Alley and Mr. Casebeer, the Shoreline Park ribbon cutting, which was really great. And if you haven't had a chance to go down to Shoreline Park and see the new Bluffside path, it's and the landscaping, it's really worth a trip there, because it's very nicely done. Great project. So, and I attended the Street Tree Advisory Committee meeting on October 4th, and Mr. Downey reported that enforcement cases are way down. He's closed a lot of cases, so that was really good news. And the trees on your agenda, we reviewed the trees on your agenda. And along with Ms. Longstreet, attended yesterday's City Council meeting where the City Council discussed landmarking 13 Corymbia, formerly known as Eucalyptus citriodora, at the Central Library. And the results of that meeting were City Council voted 5-2 in favor of landmarking 5 of those trees, including the 3 at the current entry to the library, and 2 others. The dissenting council members were Mayor Schneider and Councilmember Murillo. So that's pretty much it from my end. And I guess we didn't talk about Park Foundation, but Ms. Longstreet, yeah.
Guess it's been a busier month than the Park Foundation continues to be looking to the future and growth, and looking to the future and growth, and we're working on our plans for the next year. So if you care to support the Park Foundation and all the good work that is able to go forward for youth and our parks, please do. We have a website.
We do indeed. Yes, thank you. And I didn't attend the lawn bowls because I got early word that B.B. Longstreet was a natural, yeah. No. Okay. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. Summary of council actions. We don't really need to discuss that, so it's in your packet. And agenda item number 3 would be approval of minutes. Does anyone have any changes, or anyone want to make a motion?
I approve the minutes of September 26th.
A second?
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So you're abstaining? Okay, okay. Yes,
Chair, I abstain.
yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to Street Tree Advisory Committee items. This is agenda item number 4. And we're on to 4A, which is 754 Fiernes Place. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Chair Wescombe,
Firenze?
I pronounce it
Firenze.
Firenze.
Okay. Mr. Downey.
Chair Wescombe and Commissioners, 754 Firenze Place is a street tree known as camphor tree. It's the only street tree on the street. The applicant is requesting to remove the tree because it makes a mess on her property. She's done a number of landscape improvements to try and clean the place up, and is concerned about the amount of litter. She indicates that the sidewalk is lifted and damage to the street, and the fact that the tree will get larger and only become messier. The Street Tree Advisory Committee went out to the site and reviewed the application materials. There was a early proposal to replant the street, and the committee commented that had that replanting already occurred, that losing this tree would not be as much of an impact to the community, they determined that losing this tree would be a material loss to the neighborhood, and the recommendation is to deny.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Downey. We don't have any public comment on this particular item, so we will open it up to the commission for discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendation to deny the removal of the camphor tree at 754 Firenze Place.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. I think that carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 4B1. We do have a speaker for this particular item. It's 611 East Victoria Street. So what we're going to do is Mr. Downey will give his report, then the commission will open up to the commission for any questions, and then you may come and speak, and then we'll open it up to the commission for discussion. Okay? So Mr. Downey?
Chair, Westcombe Commissioners, 611 East Victoria Street, on the Panchita side of the property are two palm trees located in the setback. The Mexican fan palm, the taller of the two, is located just about directly over the sewer line, and they are having some root intrusion problems with the sewer line. The concern is that without removal of the tree, they'll have continued problems, and that the other palm tree is close enough that it could cause problems as well. As a matter of, I don't believe we've had this type of item for the new commissioners. I'll give it just a little bit of background on sewer line issues. Sewer lines typically run at least 4 to 5 feet below grade. Typically, tree roots occur where they can get water and air, which is usually within the top 3 feet of soil. In most cases, scientific studies have proven that typically what occurs in this situation is the line begins to leak for whatever reasons, and then moistens the soil, and then the tree finds that source of nutrients and follows it down to the line. So really the line is the issue and not the tree. For those reasons, the Street Advisory Committee is recommending to deny the removals.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Mr. Downey. So I'm going to open it up to the commission for any questions to Mr. Downey before we take public comment from Ms. Petty. Any questions? Ms. Longstreet?
One question. If the owner has to replace the sewer line underneath, it's directly underneath the tree, at that time will the tree have to be removed, or can it be done around the tree?
Chair Viscom and Commissioner Longstreet, there are new methods to install sewer lines that don't involve complete trenching. I don't know if that's an option at this location, but that would be the first option to explore. If the only option is trenching to repair the line, and it would compromise the integrity of the tree, I would approve that tree administratively, regardless of what the commission says today.
Okay, thank you. That answers.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, fine. So we have one speaker, Ms. Susan Petty. Welcome. Let me turn the mic on for you. There you go. I can give you a couple minutes.
Oh, that's plenty, I think.
Oh, okay, fine.
Everything I've heard is correct and accurate. I've been told that it is going to require some trenching. I live in a 1922 house that I love, and for the 15 years I've been there, I've had a roto-rooter guy come out 2-3 times a year and just drill through the root ball that was once my clay sewer pipe. It's gone under that tree. And what I'm trying to do, with your permission, is I really must replace the clay line, and I wanted to do the trenchless. And actually, if I can still do that, I'll go with it. I have two different people I'm talking to. But at any rate, my bigger issue is that I definitely will replace the line to the sidewalk. That must be replaced. I can no longer just have a roto-rooter guy come out. But then I'm trying to avoid what I see as the inevitability. And that's, by the way, that's going to cost me about $3,000. I'm trying to avoid the inevitability of the roots then going into the other section of the clay line that goes from the sidewalk out into the middle of the street still. The city used to replace those lines, but, once it was outside your house, but not anymore. So that's what I'm trying to avoid, is to just finish with the problem, replacing that section of line and eliminating the trees, which frankly I love, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Petty. Appreciate it. And I'm going to close public comment then and open it up to the commission for discussion. Mr. Casebeer.
Yes, thank you for your comments, and I sympathize with your quandary. I'm a real estate broker, and I deal with this issue of sewer lateral replacements on a regular basis. It's actually a city ordinance when properties are transferred. And it would make probably more sense if you would consider to replace the sewer line. Actually, you don't replace the line. They insert a sleeve from inside the house to the sewer main. You go into the street. The property owners are responsible all the way to the middle of the street, wherever the sewer main is. And then the tree can live on, and you can enjoy your home.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Casebeer. Does anyone else have any comments? Okay, I will say one thing. When this came up in front of the Street Tree Advisory Committee, there was a question of because there's some hedges on your property also, and some other rather tall plantings. There was question amongst the Street Tree Advisory Committee as to how do you differentiate between the palm roots and the other roots of the trees. And it seems to me that the most comfortable idea would be to let you do your work, deny the request, let you do your work, and if the tree needs to be approved administratively, Mr. Downey is in a position to do that if the root system is compromised. That would be, I think that would be my solution to it. If anyone wants to make a motion or has any further discussion on it. Mr. Trenicosti.
I'd like to make a comment too. I empathize with you also because I used to have a house that a California coastal oak was doing the same thing to my sewer, and I had a camera go down there to find out. You probably had that too, right? But I think I agree with Ms. Wiscombe's approach that we try and do it without the trees, and then if you can't, well, you've done your best. I don't know if that's a motion.
Is that a motion or?
Okay, so I'd like to make the motion then that we deny the request and on 611 East Victoria Street,
Okay.
as suggested by the committee.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, fine. So I hope you'll work with, Mr. Downey down the road. I hope it works out for you. Thank you very much for coming. Okay. We're going to move on to agenda item 4B2, which is 1717A Bath Street. And we do have a speaker for this item, so it's, okay, there you are. Welcome. So it's going to be the same thing. Mr. Downey will give his report. Commissioners can ask any questions of Mr. Downey, and then we'll take your comments. Is it G? Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Downey.
Chair Wiscombe and Commissioners, 1717 Bath Street is a property that has a duplex on it, 2 separate units, so the A unit is in the front. The tree in the front yard is American sweet gum, shown in the picture here. The applicant is concerned about some root damage that's currently occurring to the steps and to the decking. The Street Tree Advisory Committee reviewed the application materials and went out to the site, and they determined that although the tree is doing some root damage, that root pruning could occur to correct those damages, and the community would be at a loss for shade if this tree was removed. It's about the only tree other than street trees in this section of the street, so they were concerned about the loss to the community. Their recommendation is to deny.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Downey. Do any of my, yes, Ms. Longstreet?
I do have a question about its proximity to the street tree and the growth patterns of both, and they seem to be sort of crowding each other. Can you talk a little about that?
Chairperson, Commissioners, the committee also commented on that. One of the things that the committee said, and I concur with, is without violating the current ordinance, this tree could be maintained at this size through regular pruning so that it doesn't get much larger. If this tree were to be removed, the street tree is as mature as it's going to get, and it really would not benefit. In fact, it probably would be a detriment to the street tree if we remove this tree, because it would be exposed to sun that it has not been exposed to, which might cause sunburn on the trunk of the tree.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Okay, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Ms. G, would like to come forward? Welcome. And I can give you a couple minutes. Is that?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you know. You see my house?
If you could, if you could. Oh, okay. Well. Okay. You really need to talk into the microphone, because this is a public meeting. So.
And if it weren't for the city tree, and when you look at it, the city tree is like one of the most mature, large of, I don't know what kind of tree it is, but also the utility lines run through it, and then there's the underground water, sewer, and electrical underground. I have pruned it, and every time I prune it, it grows more robust and vigorous. And my arborist said, you should have it removed and plant something smaller. And I look at it and I think, yeah, a beautiful little, a smaller tree would be better. And yes, it does provide shade, but do you know what it provides shade to or for? Is people come by, they sit down and they smoke, and they leave their beer cans, they leave their trash. So I don't know who it's benefiting. It's not benefiting me. It's just huge. I'm just asking to remove it, and I would plant a smaller tree that would be in the proper scale.
Have you ever talked to your arborist about root pruning it?
Yes. Well, it's very expensive. I've got 3 stone steps, and he said it has to be completely lifted off, and my stonework and the deck. And so I agree with his recommendation that to remove the tree would be cost-effective for me.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate it.
May
I'm gonna-
may I ask, when was the last time this tree was pruned? Do you? A year ago? Thank you.
Okay, the applicant is sitting down, but she answered 6 to 18 months, just for the record. Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm going to close public comment and open it up to the commission for discussion. Anyone have any comments? I'm particularly concerned about the street tree. If we approved the removal of this tree, first of all, Street Tree Advisory Committee found no code justification to remove the tree. They did recommend root pruning, and I am concerned about it's a Lophostomen, isn't it, in this street? And I'm concerned about Mr. Downey's comments about if this tree were removed, that it might have a detrimental effect on the Lophostomen. So, and then, if we lose two, we don't have any. I mean, these are both very significant trees, I think. So Stack was more interested in seeing root pruning performed on the tree, and also that the tree is trimmed to control the size of the tree. And the other comment they made was that there's no evidence of foundation damage. So, which is a consideration. But so I guess my feeling would be that there are some other steps that can be taken first before we take a step and possibly jeopardize a street tree in the process. That's my thought. Anyone else? No?
No, I would have to agree, and I would have to agree with, the root pruning, and maybe Mr. Downey can work with you on some suggestions on that, because that might be helpful. But that in a good trimming, and it is a beautiful tree, and if we lose two in that site, we're in trouble. So I would move that we concur with the Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for 1717A Bath Street.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Alley. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, fine. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you for your time and coming in, and I hope it works out for you.
Appeal.
Yes, I should have mentioned that you, Ms. G, you may appeal this to City Council if you wish. You have 10 days, and I should have announced that at the beginning, but yeah, okay. Yeah. And Mr. Downey, you might want to tell the other applicant that, since I failed to mention that like I should have.
Chair Wiscombe?
Yes.
If I could
Ms.
just
Zachary.
add, applicants are also notified in writing, and it's in their application. So we are sure that they know what their
Okay.
options are.
Great.
So rest
Okay.
assured, they're informed.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zachary. Okay, thank you, Mr. Downey. We're going to move on to agenda item number 5 under old business, which is the advisory committee liaison appointments. This is continued from last month because Mr. K-Spear wasn't here, and Ms. Alley would prefer to be the liaison on the Creeks Advisory Committee, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. K-Spear, since you are the current liaison to.
Well, I've spent the last year and a half or 2 years on creeks, and it's really a great committee. I feel like we're making real important decisions and contributions to our community. And so I've kind of gotten this knowledge and energy, and now it's somebody else's turn. So I'm happy to pass the torch and wish you good luck. You're in good hands with Mr. Benson, and I look forward to working on the Arts and Crafts Show.
No, you can't have that. I want that. No, I'm teasing. No, that's great. Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. K-Spear. I know you gave that a lot of consideration, and it was a hard decision for you. So, Ms. Alley, you are officially the liaison for the Creeks Advisory Committee, and Mr. K-Spear is officially the liaison for the Arts and Crafts Show, which is going to have some challenges.
Yeah, and also there's the Lower Mission Creek Design Subcommittee that the sixth one down.
Right. Are you suggesting that Ms. Alley
Yeah.
takes that too?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. Cool. Now we're moving on to administrative and staff reports, and timely, we have agenda item number 6, which is the Creeks Division 2012 report. There's Mr. Benson. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Cameron Benson, and I am the manager of the Creeks Restoration Water Quality Improvement Division. And first of all, speaking just a second to the item before this one, on behalf of the Creeks Advisory Committee, I wanted to welcome Commissioner Alley and also thank Commissioner K-Spear for his service to the committee. He has been a valuable and valued member of the committee, and we really want to thank you for your enthusiasm and your insights and wisdom that you've been able to bring to us. So thank you. Okay, so I am here today to provide you with a report, 2012 report on the Creeks Division's programs and projects. And so I want to focus on the 3 main program areas for the Creeks Division, which are water quality, creek restoration, and education and outreach. The Creeks Division conducts an extensive water quality monitoring program. Our goals are to assess pollutants, habitat quality, and threats to human and aquatic health, as well as to evaluate project effectiveness. And then, of course, we want to communicate all of that information to the public. We have a regular water quality monitoring program that we conduct, where we conduct weekly, quarterly, and annual sampling, and we're looking for different constituents when we do that. We also perform storm monitoring, where we go out when it's raining, which usually happens in the middle of the night. And the goal there is to catch the first rainstorm of the season, so we get the first flush. That gives us kind of our worst case scenario, and then we usually do 2 or 3 additional storms throughout the winter. We also do project monitoring to assess the performance of our capital projects. So we go out before we do a project, and we collect samples and develop some baseline data. And then after we implement a capital project, we'll do sampling after that to determine the project's effectiveness. And then finally, we provide all of that monitoring information to the public in quarterly, annual, and 5-year report increments. Trash is a big problem for us. The Creeks Division works with contractors and volunteers throughout the year to remove a huge amount of trash from our creeks and beaches. We send a contractor out at least twice a week to some of the real problem sites to remove trash. We take out furniture, appliances, human waste, carpeting, you name it. We find it in the creeks. And we also work with volunteers from nonprofit organizations, churches, and businesses, and do regular creek and beach cleanups with them. Now, all told, we've removed over 1 million pounds of trash since 2001. The City Creeks Division also contributes approximately $190,000 per year to the city's street sweeping program. The street sweeping program is run by the Public Works Department. It covers about 81% of all the streets in the city, and Public Works estimates they pick up about 4 million pounds of debris every year. Oops. We also have put storm drain screens onto over 1,200 catch basins throughout the city. Now, obviously, trash is aesthetically unappealing, but it also often carries with it other substances that can be harmful to human and aquatic health, such as heavy metals, viruses, and bacteria. As a result, the trash and other debris have been identified as a pollutant of concern in the city's stormwater management program. And as you can see in these photos, what we did was we installed screens across the catch basin openings. Those screens trap the trash and debris, and then when the street sweeper comes by, it picks all that up. The screens are also designed to open, so when we have high flows, lots of water coming in, they just open up and let the water through, so they are designed to prevent any kind of flooding. Almost this entire project was grant funded. The Creeks Division is also engaged in very important water quality research efforts. Since 2004, we've partnered with UCSB in some cutting-edge scientific research. That research has helped to develop new DNA-based testing methods that can detect the presence of human waste in storm drains and in creeks. We received grants to develop a set of tools, which include closed-circuit TV cameras, dye and smoke testing, flow meters, auto samplers, and even sewage sniffing dogs that Santa Barbara and other coastal cities can use to identify and track sources of contamination in the creeks. Creeks Division staff also serves as the administrators for the city stormwater management program. Urban runoff, whether it's from stormwater or nuisance flows, is the largest source of water pollution in the city. And the Stormwater Management Program and the Stormwater BMP Guidance Manual outline the city's strategy for combating this problem. The Creeks Division also managed a large stormwater quality project along Upper Las Positas Creek on the municipal golf course property. And that project's designed to capture and treat all of the stormwater from the golf course and also from the surrounding neighborhoods, including Las Positas Road. and it treats that runoff before the water flows down into Arroyo Burro and out to the beach. And then recently we completed a stormwater treatment retrofit project in the Mackenzie Park parking lot. The Mackenzie Park parking lot project is an example of what we call low-impact development, which is designed to better mimic the natural hydrology of a site. The project treats stormwater and the pollutants that it carries through infiltration into the soil on site. In the top photo, you can see that there are deep bays underneath where the parking stalls go in the parking lot. And those are filled with gravel, and then there are permeable paver bricks, concrete bricks that are placed on top that allow the stormwater to run off and flow down into those bays where it can infiltrate into the soil. This project has won awards from the California Parks and Recreation Society and from the American Public Works Association, as well as commendation from our Regional Water Quality Control Board. I'm very pleased to announce that just a few weeks ago, we were notified that we received a grant to install this type of stormwater treatment project in Oak Park, in Stevens Park, and at the West Side Neighborhood Center. Pretty significant grant, about $1.9 million. We're planning to start construction on those projects in May of next year. The Creeks Division also has been very involved in creek restoration efforts. We've partnered with Santa Barbara Beautiful and the Santa Barbara Botanic Garden, and we've had over 400 volunteers planting thousands of native plants at nearly a dozen different sites. We also manage an invasive plant removal program, which is currently focused on eradicating Arundo donax, or giant reed, from our creeks. And we're continuing our effort to restore steelhead trout to Mission Creek and to restore Mission Creek Lagoon and Laguna Creek down by East Beach. So the endangered Southern California steelhead trout live part of their life in freshwater, part of their life in the ocean. They return to their native creeks and rivers to spawn, and we've seen large steelhead, and when I say large, they're about 28 to 32 inches, coming up Mission Creek in 7 of the last 10 years. Unfortunately, we don't think their efforts to spawn in Mission Creek have been successful because they've run into man-made barriers as they're trying to make it up the creek. Most notably, the 1.1 mile long concrete flood control channels known as the Caltrans channels, which are shown in these lower pictures here. The problem with these barriers is that they make the water move too quickly for the fish to swim through, or too shallow. As you can see, these flood control channels are about 26 feet wide at the bottom, and the water does what it's supposed to do in a flood control channel, moves very quickly, but it's too shallow and too fast for the fish to get through. We've taken this, Creeks Division's taken the lead on this effort, but we've been working with numerous partners, including state and federal wildlife agencies, the Flood Control District, nonprofit organizations, and other individuals. We've been very successful with our efforts to obtain grant funding for these projects. Approximately 90% of the projects have been funded by grants so far. The Talent Road barrier, which is in Oak Park and is in this picture in the lower left-hand corner, was modified in 2010 to allow fish passage. So we removed about 2,000 square feet of concrete from the bed of the creek and restored it with a series of pools and riffles. And the upper Caltrans channel here was modified in 2011 and then finished this summer to allow steelhead passage. And we created a low-flow channel there with some resting areas. So we provide the depth and the velocity for fish passage. So once completed, these projects will open up 3.9 miles of steelhead spawning habitat in Mission Creek. The Mission Creek Laguna Creek Restoration Project is a multi-departmental effort that includes Parks and Recreation, Public Works, Waterfront, and Community Development, and the project's being coordinated by the Creeks Division. This project is primarily located on East Beach. You can see here's Stearns Wharf, and here's the Mission Lagoon on the beach. It's between State and Garden Street. The project goals include water quality and habitat improvement, improving flood control, and enhancing the aesthetics in the area. And we're still in the preliminary phases with this project. We recently received from our consultant a draft technical studies that includes engineering, biological, and historical analyses. And that will help us not only with the next step, which is our conceptual design, but will also help us get through the permitting process, which will be, because of the sensitivity of this area, will be extensive. The Creeks Division also does a significant amount of water quality education with young people in the city. We hire students with the nonprofit Youth Cinemedia to perform graphic design and print and video media for our outreach efforts. We participate in an after-school program called Speak for the Creeks, which provides watershed education to 4th through 6th graders through art and poetry. And we manage a program called the Creek Kids Series that offers watershed education to students in all of Santa Barbara's elementary schools. Through this voluntary Creek Kids program, teachers can choose to have an instructor come to their classroom, or they can take their class on a guided field trip to the Watershed Resource Center down at Arroyo Burro, or they can do both. And the curriculum for this program is correlated to the state science education standards, and we reach approximately 3,000 students a year through that program. As part of the city's effort to reduce runoff pollution, the Creeks Division also does a great deal of community outreach. We produce and distribute print, radio, and television PSAs in English and in Spanish with clean water messages. I'm proud to say that one of our television PSAs this past year won a regional Emmy Award. Working with City TV, we've also developed several informative documentary-type programs that offer a historical and scientific look at the city's creeks and water quality. And working with the cities of Carpinteria and Goleta and the county's Project Clean Water and several local community organizations, we hosted the 13th annual Creek Week event last month. We had over 700 people come and participate in Creek Week events, including beach cleanups, creek restoration programs, and a water quality forum. I also wanted to mention our Clean Water Business Program. For the past few years, the Creeks Division has worked with local businesses to voluntarily improve runoff water management. We've worked with the automotive services industry, restaurants, and mobile businesses that use water for their businesses, so power washers and mobile car washers and things like that. This year, we're reaching out to retail businesses as well. And in exchange for participation in the program, we provide advertising in local print publications. People get a signed certificate signed by the mayor, and we have a window decal that people can put in their business's window. And so far, we've certified over 120 businesses. Creeks Division also has a very ambitious capital improvement program. And here's a graph showing how our capital program is funded. The blue bars at the bottom represent the contribution from Measure B that goes into our capital program, and the green bars represent grant funds. As you can see, we've been very successful over the years in leveraging the Measure B dollars to get the most that we can for the city. And even though we're only a little over 3.5 months into this fiscal year, we've already been awarded almost $3 million in grant funds. We still have over $4.5 million in grant applications pending that we should hear answers on by the end of this year. And given that, I'm confident that for the second time in 4 years, we'll have more grant revenue coming into the Creeks Division than we received from Measure B, the total revenue from Measure B. One critical thing to note in saying that is that we couldn't be successful at getting this grant money if we didn't have Measure B in place. Having that dedicated revenue source really makes this program appealing to grant funders. And so, and then one last thing here, I'm showing FY13, and it seems to be in the projected column. This bar graph only shows what we've actually received so far this year. So, like I said, we have $4.5 million pending. So we've got a shot here to just blow the lid off of this chart. And so with that, I'll conclude, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benson. That was a great report. Mr. Casebeer.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. I think maybe for the new members of the Commission and those people who might be watching tonight, might be helpful to explain Measure B as a funding source, where that money comes from and such, and the history there.
Sure. Madam Chair, Commissioner Casebeer, thanks for that question. Yeah, sometimes I kind of assume people know that, and not everybody does. The origin of Measure B is that back in the late 90s, that we were having a lot of beach warnings and beach closures due to water pollution in the creeks and in the nearshore area of the beaches. And the City Council placed a measure on the ballot to increase the transient occupancy tax, the hotel bed tax, by 2%, and the funds to be dedicated for new programs and projects to improve creek and ocean water quality and to restore creeks in the city. And that went on the ballot in November 2000. It was passed overwhelmingly. About 72% of the voters supported that, and it went into place immediately, and the Creeks Division was formed in 2001 to oversee that.
So no general fund monies go to support these programs. So,
Madam Chair, Commissioner Casebeer, that's correct. No general fund dollars. It's purely funded through Measure B, and then we use that funding to leverage grant funding.
Good.
Great. That was a great review of that. Thank you, Mr. Casebeer, for that, because I think it's important for everyone to know. Anyone else have any comments? Just Longstreet?
the other part of it is the Creeks Committee is made up of, has representation from the hospitality industry on it built into the measure. And I think that's really important that the group that's doing the collecting the funds has some buy-in to the whole program. And I think it's one of the best things Santa Barbara ever did. We wouldn't have the grant funding if people consistently had not written the grants to get that. So thank you to all the staff that participates in that. And I know what you said is very true, because we do have the resources then to maintain programs that are built. And so over the years, some pretty amazing things have been done, and I think the statistics you gave out about trash are particularly important, and I wish we weren't still doing that. I wish that we were more responsible to keep the trash out of there in the first place, and that we could be putting more of our money into some of these water quality issues like the Mission Creek Lagoon and things like that. But thank you, and thanks to everybody that worked so hard to make it all happen.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Trinicosta.
Thank you, Mr. Benton. I really liked your presentation, and I want to applaud your and your team's diligence going out every time, the first time it rains. Just a question about that. How much variability is there in the quality of what you see? Are there some areas that, for example, are really bad versus some that are a lot better, or is it pretty much consistently the same across the city?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Trentacotti, do you mean geographically around the city? In the first flush, generally what we see coming off of urban areas is similar. There's not a lot of difference between streets and sidewalks and parking lots on the west side of town compared to the east side of town. We have similar loads of urban runoff type pollutants. And so that's why a project like what we did at Mackenzie Park, and as people start implementing that kind of project, that runoff that contains those kinds of things, bacteria and metals and hydrocarbons and pesticide and things like that, those types of pollutants, if they are allowed to get into the soil, microbes in the soil, and even microbes that establish themselves on that gravel that you saw in the photo, will be able to treat those pollutants, so we don't get, it doesn't create some kind of groundwater contamination, it doesn't create some kind of soil contamination, but it actually removes those pollutants and then carries additional benefits to protect the creek environment and even property owners, in that it helps to prevent flooding, so we don't have that water running off quickly off of properties. It will stay on site and infiltrate. It helps improve groundwater, and it slows the rate of the flow of water off of properties, which causes significant erosion and flooding downstream as well.
Thanks. And is it too early yet to see the impact of Mackenzie Park project?
Thank you. That's a good question. We've had that project in for one winter, and what we saw was almost no runoff at all from that parking lot. We designed it to be able to capture and treat what our stormwater management program permits standard is, which is 1 inch every 24 hours, and we actually intentionally oversized it a bit because we wanted to make sure it worked. And I think we had one storm last winter where it rained about 1 3/4 inches, and we had essentially no runoff off the site. So it captured that, and we actually monitor how deep the water got in those bays and how quickly it percolates, and so we do have all that data available, and we can share that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that has any? Okay, I actually have some. I went over this report last month because that's when you were up, but then it got postponed. In the report, it said in March 2012, the State Water Board released draft revision to stormwater management program. And how will these new regulations affect creeks? Can you address that?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I just want to point out that you're referring to what we have. We actually have a hard copy of a 2012 report, which
Right.
is similar to what I was just giving. This is available on the Creeks Division website for anybody who's watching at home, and that's at sbcreeks.com. And so people can look on the website and be able to get this. We also have hard copies available if people really need a hard copy. Having said that, yes, our stormwater management program is actually a permit under the Federal Clean Water Act, and it's regulated by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. This year, the State Water Board is issuing a new permit, and the Regional Water Board is issuing a new permit, and so we have to comply with those things. What we have been working on for the City of Santa Barbara is as we've been very involved in the development of those regulations, and what we've been working on is creating the possibility for the City of Santa Barbara to continue implementing the regulations that we already have in place. And the reason for that is to not cause regulatory chaos. We've been implementing these regulations for several years now. The design community and the public have gotten used to how these work. The city staff's gotten used to how the program that we have set up works. And we believe that the program that we have in place actually provides greater water quality protection than the new regulations that were actually recently adopted by the Regional Water Board. And so we are now in a process where we've applied for an exception that was included in the new regulation that would allow the Water Board to approve our existing program as for the next permit phase, which is for the next 5 years.
Great. So you're basically saying you're a step ahead of them. So it's not going to have a monetary impact on implementing these regulations. You've taken it above that. So
we're trying to implement the same program that we have been implementing, and like I said, it's we think that it provides greater water quality protection for our city. It may not be the same in every other jurisdiction that they regulate.
Great. Okay. I have comments and I think some other questions, but I want to commend you on the stormwater infiltration project at McKenzie, and you getting the grant for the 3 other parking lots, because that's a really great example, and I know that project has won at least one award, if not more, and it's really a great example of what can be done when you consider the pollutant sources. You park your car there, you drip oil, and if you can treat that before it gets to our creeks, it's great. So really appreciate that. I was interested on your sewage sniffing dogs, which and this is all in the 2012 report. So this was an award-winning project, and is this going to continue in the future? My recollection is you got grant funds to implement that, and so are you anticipating or hoping for grant funds to continue that program?
Madam Chair, thanks for that question. Yes, that was a research project that was grant funded by a private grant funding organization called the Water Education Research Foundation, and it was fully funded through the grant, and we ended up winning an award from the California Association of Stormwater Quality something. Anyway, I'm trying to think all these acronyms in my head.
It's all right. Yeah.
Stormwater Quality Association, that's what it is. The only 2 dogs in the world that do that are in Michigan, and so when the people when we found out about them, we were proposing something that they had never done before. They were using them for a different purpose, and so they thought, wow, this is an interesting opportunity to try something new. So they drove. They don't like to put the dogs on the airplane because it messes up their olfactory senses. So they drove all the way out from Michigan, and they were out here for a week, and they drove back, and it was a long way for them to go. And we've tried to get them back out, and one of the things we've been trying to do is partner with some other cities to make it a little more worth their while. They could come out and stay for longer and get more work done. There may be additional grant funding available to do that. What we found was initially my reaction to the cost of bringing them out, I think it was $12,000 to have them here to do 7 days of work, and it seemed, it was an unusual thing, and it seemed like a lot of money. And then as it turned out, they found several different sources of contamination that we have been working for years to try to pinpoint the source, and the prior response to those kinds of problems was to install, a very resource, money-intensive project. You redirect the storm drain that's contaminated to the wastewater treatment plant, for example, to treat that pollution because you can't find where it's coming from. That might cost you $200,000 or $300,000 a pop for one of those things. So it became a very economical tool to use. It's just that they don't exist. So the good news is we are working with other communities, but there are also dog trainers now in California who are working with these people, and they linked up to them through us, and they're learning how to train some dogs closer to home here that will be able to do the work in California.
That's great. That's what an interesting story. So, well, I hope it continues for you, and that there's some partnerships with other cities to really get that program going, since it's been so cost effective for you. I wanted to commend you on the department on the Adams Elementary School Upper Las Positas Creek Restoration Project, which is, and I was glad to see that it's now used as an outdoor science classroom. I mean, that's really great. I mean, that was a great project in itself for a lot of reasons, and to be able to use that as a learning tool for kids, for elementary school kids, is really cool. You answered that question in your, and also I think, your community outreach and education programs have been, including and highlighting youth education, which you highlighted the Creek Kids series. The department's really done a great job on that, and I think you're reaching out in a lot of different areas. And I was also pleased to see community outreach at about 25% of your budget, which is in both FY 2011 and 2012, because that's such an important thing. If we can educate our community, it's on the importance of water quality and what to do. It really helps, I think. And I was curious how long, it seems like every time I read about your Clean Water Business Program, there's more certified businesses. So I don't know how much it's grown, but how long has that been in place? Because you're up to 120 certified businesses. Is that something, Ms. Zachary, that you implemented? Yeah.
We think it began in 2004, but our goal is to add at least 20 new businesses per year to that program. And as you go around town, you will see a lot of businesses that have the decal in their windows now.
Yeah, that's really great. I think that's a very important program. So my final comment is, so in 3.5 months for FY 2013, you've got over $3 million in grant funds. Are we aiming for $1 million a month here, or what?
It'd be great if we had $1 million a year. But we don't leave any stone unturned. Yeah. So when we've got opportunities and when we've got good projects, we try to match those things up. And as you all pointed out earlier, I've got pretty incredible staff who are not only great at identifying those things, but really knowledgeable about their projects, and so they can make it work with the grant funders. They have the answers to all the questions, and like I said, we have the Measure B funds. So we've been audited on some past projects we've done, and the funders come down and they see that these things are not only look wonderful, but they're being well maintained, and they don't have that experience in every community. And it's really because we have the Measure B funds to be able to deliver quality products.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And grant fund audits, oftentimes are disappointments to the funder. So that's really great. Well, thank you very much. And I know we on the commission commend you and your staff for the excellent work that you're doing, Mr. Benson.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move on to agenda item number 7, which is the after-school program report. We have Ms. Brown, Mr. Smith here.
Good evening, Chair Wiscombe and Parks and Recreation Commissioners. I'm Terry Brown. I'm the Youth Activities Supervisor, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight about after-school programs and what's happening this year. Do I have to hold it? Our after-school programs take place at elementary schools, and the partnership we've had with Santa Barbara School District is significant for allowing this program, or all of our programs after school, to occur. So we've been doing this for over 20 years, and of course every year we like to believe that this will be the best year ever. One of the recreation after school programs we have is RAP. And RAP supports all students. You don't have to be targeted or have a certain demographic to attend the program. And because we do support all students, we feel that we're helping to close the achievement gap for any students that need the service. Our learning, we like to think, is project-based, meaning that we'll do activities such as Lights On After School, or we'll do the Giving Tree during the holiday season, and activities that we think are above and beyond just kind of a direct approach to teaching kids something. We, of course, promote physical activity. That's one of our goals. We believe that because we're at the school sites, we're very, very fortunate to feel that it's a very safe program, and parents believe that if the kids can stay at school to do an after-school program, that's the best place for them. We have scholarships available for all families that need it, and our hours of operation support working parents. These are our elementary school sites. As you can see, we have 4 RAP sites, and our fee structure is that we divide the school year into 6 sessions of various number of days depending on the holiday season. And we charge $145, and again, we do provide scholarships for either 50% or 75% depending on the family's need. If families want a drop-in pass because they're going to come less than 3 or 4 days per week, they can purchase that for $70. And then some families come to us and just on the fly, a parent's got an emergency, can you take my kid? And we say absolutely, and we can accommodate that as well for $10 a day. The programs focus on skill development, and Jeff's going to talk to you about the sport leagues that are inserted inside the after-school programs. Each week, there's always one club activity, such as Dodgeball Club is a favorite, our Lanyard Club, Cooking Club, and then every week is a field trip. This week, of course, each site's going to the Pumpkin Patch. And every day is tutoring and homework assistance for each of the students. The participation in RAP since 2010, this graph shows you from the end of 2010 to the end of this first session, 2012. So you can see, for example, at Adams, we've had a steady increase. All the sites are holding strong. And by the end of 2012, in June of this year, I believe those numbers will grow even more. So how do we stay alive and the go-to program for parents. We add things like Spark, which is a standards-based physical fitness and wellness program for all students. So it's designed for students with special needs. There's all kinds of activities that are standardized based so that the staff can go to an actual handout and receive supplemental training from a professional who actually wrote the curriculum to meet the school state standards. And that's what the schools are looking to us to do. They want to know that we're following what they would normally be doing during the normal school day. I love our free new snack program because it's provided by Santa Barbara Unified School District Nutrition Services, and there's no waste. It's all unpackaged, and it's very nutritious, and it's a huge asset to the program. We have 4 new fresh faces, which was very exciting because they're full of lively ideas. And we increased the hours of training to not only accommodate the new staff, but to also make sure that the new directors were very good on their communication skills and that they were focusing a lot on what the schools want to hear and what the teachers want to hear and what parents want to hear. So we did really work a lot on customer service this year at the beginning of the school year. And the new directors want to bring kids from their site to a new site, and the principals are embracing that. We can take 50 kids from Monroe over to Washington, and the Washington principal loves it. They love to see a focus on school versus school-friendly activities to bring the kids together from different schools. So we've also focused on that, which is new this year. So, what is inclusion? Inclusion is something that the city has adopted as a philosophy to help students with health and special needs. And we follow this program in RAP, and it's a huge asset to a lot of our students. And we have an assessment team that coordinates the program, and it determines a support plan for any students who might have a health or special need. And Julie Thomas is our rec specialist who coordinates that program. And she will coordinate a parent, sometimes a teacher, a nurse, our site supervisor to determine what the best support is for an individual student. And then Julie will oversee the implementation to make sure that either as a team, if we don't need an extra set of eyes and ears, the staff that's currently in place will then support what that student needs. And in some cases, like in this picture, we did provide an extra set of eyes and ears. And this is what I call the mom buzz, which is where moms hear when something's working well, then they send more students. So fortunately, parents feel very safe if they have a child with health or special needs, and it's catching on. Our funding is based on the general fund, which provides money for our city scholarships, as I said before, as our scholarships for our students. And then the additional money is made up through what we can acquire in our program fees. And that pays for our staffing, which includes, as you can see, a site director, 2 to 3 program leaders, and then in some cases, the funding we get from the general fund also supports an additional staff for our inclusion program. AOK, that's another after-school program. It stands for After-School Opportunities for Kids, and that's our second elementary school program. It is grant funded, meaning that the money is provided to the school district from the state of California. The grant requires that there be a partner. The city of Santa Barbara has been a partner with the school district in the AOK program since 1999. The participants have to be identified, and they have to attend once they are identified. So if they have reading, if they're below grade level in reading, or any type of, for example, homework assistance they may need, or they've been identified by a teacher or principal, then they get a higher priority to attend the program. Once they are registered, they must attend because the priority is that they receive this academic component. And it's also a program where each site is a Title I school, meaning that a minimum of 75% of the students are performing at or below grade level and are at the poverty level. At all of our AOK sites, it's 95% or higher of those students that are at or below the poverty level. The attendance is strong every single year. Oftentimes we have wait lists. However, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't receive our maximum funding because we do have to have 80% of our total attendance to receive full funding from the state. The elements are similar to any after-school program with a focus on the enrichment hour, and Jeff can again tell you a little bit about some of the sports that takes place at our AOK sites, but you can see that the elements are similar to RAP. And the grant also supports a joint effort administratively between the City of Santa Barbara and the school district. The grant supports at the district level a director, a full-time supervisor that oversees the coordination of the curriculum, and then someone who oversees the site coordinators at each of the schools. And then the 6 family advocates are supported by Family Service Agency, and they provide additional services and registration for students who might need dental, medical kind of services beyond what AOK can provide. And then the grant also supports our recreation coordinator, Bill Bettinger, and he oversees all the interests, the steward, the management of the program. You can see the city agreement, and the money from the general fund goes directly into the grant, and it is supported through, like I said, the state, and the $114,285 is the maximum that the city can be reimbursed to provide the staffing at each site. So at each AOK site, we'll have a site coordinator who's a school district, and then an academic liaison. As I mentioned, the Family Service Agency. The school district will provide 3 leaders that steward the curriculum that includes, math games, Project College Bound, the more academic component. And then the Parks and Recreation Department provides the outdoor activities, the wall ball curriculum, flag football, anything that the kids are actually outside running around. So that's the RAP and AOK programs, and at this time I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Smith.
Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I'm Jeff Smith. I'm a Recreation Supervisor with Parks and Rec, and I run the sports programs. I'm going to be talking about after-school free sports. And let's see, we have 3 free after-school sport leagues that run the entire school year. We start with flag football during the fall season. Then we participate in Blacktop Basketball League in the winter months, and then we finish the school year with a spring after-school soccer league. We encourage all schools and organizations that are interested in participating in our after-school leagues to sign up and join and create a team. The list of schools on the left-hand side of the screen are all Santa Barbara School District schools. All these schools, the teams and players participate for free. Parents pay $0 to have their children participate. And then the organization and schools on the right side of the screen are teams that participate, and the players sign up and pay $50 to $60 to join the league and be on the school or organization team. So we encourage as many interested students and kids to participate as possible. One of our main goals with the after-school sports program is to just encourage kids to join a sport league, an organized sport, come out and be on a team, have fun, learn some sports skills that they can carry throughout their life, and encourage them just to be healthy and just enjoy the team sportsmanship atmosphere at the schools. So our flag football after-school league runs September through November each year. The season kicks off with practices in early September. We start our games by the end of September, and then we finish the season by the end of November every year. teams practice 10 to 20 times during the season, depending on most teams practice 2 times a week, but some schools do practice, or teams practice 1 time a week. Every school, every team has at least 1 game per week. We have co-ed divisions in flag football from 3rd through 6th grade. So girls and boys are encouraged to participate. And then we finish off the season every year with a playoff tournament. All teams are involved. And we play the flag football tournament at City College's football field. So on the nice turf and usually under the lights on Thursday or Friday night. And we finish the season before Thanksgiving holidays. So the season we're in right now, 2012 in the fall, we have 350 kids in the program on 24 different teams compared to 302 participants in 2010. So that's a 16% increase in the last 2 years. Blacktop basketball is also a free program that runs January through March every year. The season kicks off right after the kids come back to school from the holidays. 10 to 20 practices, again, per team, and 8 games. In this program, we have boys and girls divisions. So we have a girls 4th through 6th grade division, and then we also finish with a playoff tournament each season. A team consists of 7 to 13 players, and the participation in January through March of 2012 was 361 players on 37 teams compared to 318 participants in the year 2010, so that's a 14% increase. And then we finish off the school year with the Spring Soccer League, which runs April through May. Same format with practices, 1 game each week, and then the boy and girl divisions as well. And then a championship tournament that we have held the last few years at Dwight Murphy Park, going to try to do City College this season, or next season. So the participation in 2012 during the spring was 298 players on 22 teams. A team consists of 11 kids on the field. So a team roster is usually 11 to 14 players. So 298 players in 2012. In 2010, we had 154 participants, so an increase of 94%. So this bar graph shows you the numbers I just talked about, but one of the things I wanted to point out is the number of girls that have been involved. So we have 350 kids in the flag football program this year. 51 of those kids are girls. In basketball last year, 361 participants, we had 97 girls. And in the soccer league, 298 kids participating with 120 girls. So when I figured out those girl numbers today, I was really surprised at how many were involved. I was really happy to see that. I think one of the reasons for the success of the program and the increase in numbers is the coaches and referees that we've had over the years. We have 14 of the 25 coaches that we currently have participated as coaches for at least 4 years. 4 of those coaches have at least 8 years with us, which I think is really impressive. Greg Stevens from VA Valley is a volunteer coach who's been one of those 8 years coaching for the Parks and Rec program. Corey Cordero from Cold Springs, same thing, 8 years. James Coronado from Franklin and Juan Lopez from Cleveland. Those guys have been keys to making the program a success, getting the kids involved. So they're huge. They're huge to our program. So the after-school sports budget, sports budget, 2012 total participation was 1,012 kids involved in the 3 sports. In 2010, we had 774 kids, so a 31% increase. The FY12 revenue was $7,910 compared to $6,722 in 2010. The after-school sports expenditures is basically approximately $60,000 per year, which is paying our paid coaches, paid referees, and our youth bus drivers. So the AOK programs that Terry talked about, those kids are transported to the away games. And then the The other costs are team shirts, supplies, and equipment that we purchase each year. Our after-school sports staff, like I said, are the key. We do a lot of training with the staff. These are referees that have been around for a number of years, like I said. The picture of them, every referee and coach is required to be CPR and first aid certified. We have at least 3 meetings a year to discuss the rules and adapt and change the rules to make sure the programs are safe and fun for the kids. We talk about game conduct for the kids, practice scheduling, how to develop a practice, and our scheduling of times for each practice day. Transportation, schedules, and rules. Transporting the kids, we have very strict rules on what we can and can't do. We want to make sure everybody is aware of that. Communication is the key, again, for our success with the coaches and the referees and the parents to make sure everybody knows what's expected and where to be and how the program works, and then coach behavior and team conduct to make sure that sportsmanship is our number 1 or maybe number 3 goal after our being fun and safe. And then that's the after-school sports programs that we run, but we also have Saturday morning programs throughout the year. We have soccer clinics year-round. We have a Saturday morning soccer league in the spring. And at the same time of the season that Pony Baseball is running their programs, we have T-ball clinics and leagues. And then the sports programs, sports office also runs adult sports in the evening hours. And we have beach volleyball, indoor volleyball, basketball, and soccer leagues as well. So these are the contact numbers for Terry's office and then the sports office and our website. So that concludes the sports report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith, and to you also, Ms. Brown. It was a great report. Yes, Ms.
Madam
Rapp.
Chair, if I could add just a couple of comments. After-school recreation programs are an area of specialization in recreation departments across the country. And we are very lucky to have had Terry Brown's expertise in our after-school programs for as many years as we've been lucky enough to have her. And the real sign of the quality of a program is the caliber of staff that she has brought on board, from the full-time staff, the permanent part-time staff, and the hourly staff that are dedicated on all of the campuses that we see. And we're very lucky to have the relationship that we have with the school district on all of these campuses, due in large part to Terry and her leadership of this program. And I just wanted to bring that out to you because sometimes when we have staff and they're just coming and giving this presentation once or twice a year, you might see them. That's the other piece of it that they do on a daily basis. And I also want to acknowledge and thank Jeff Smith, because since Jeff has joined the department, how many years? 6 years. He has grown substantially our adult sports leagues and programs and breathed new life into our youth sports. And under his guidance, we have, improved the caliber of our programs. I have people come up to me all the time in the community and talk about how much they appreciate the leadership that he brings to the programs. And you see with the numbers there, the demonstration of the increases in participation. So I wanted to thank and recognize each of them for their role in providing the programs that we do to our community. And then I also want to take a moment and acknowledge and thank the City Council for their leadership. I believe it was back in 2008 when there was a lot of discussion in the community about the increase in youth violence and children at risk on our streets. And there was a response from the City Council asking for recommendations from the Parks and Recreation Commission and some of our advisory committees on what they would prioritize. And one of those was to remove the activity fees for the after-school sports programs. And we continue to see more children today than there were then participating in this program. I believe we saw an immediate doubling of the numbers, and it continues to grow. And it's just another example of when you remove the barriers for families, families will engage their children in positive activities. So I think it's important to recognize when those kinds of good things happen and we continue to benefit from them year after year after year. So I just wanted to add that before you went to questions.
Thank you very much for adding that. Yeah, I was unable to attend the Lights On After School this year, and I know Ms. Longstreet did. But the other years that I've gone, and I've gone for several years, the partnerships that the Parks and Recreation Department has formed with the school district and other groups have really been remarkable. And the enthusiasm and the compliments that the department gets is just really wonderful and overflowing at these events. It's really great to see. So you and staff are all to be commended for the excellent work you're doing. Ms. Longstreet, did you have something to say?
My kids grew up in these programs, in the sports programs and in the after-school programs, and I worked for years in the school district and saw it change over the years. And there were years I wasn't so sure because, near and dear to my heart was the drop-in. And I've seen the improvements and I've seen things tighten up. But still, you're opening the door in more ways to those people that need to drop in. So I think I'm really pleased to see how you've engaged the community. It's wonderful. When I'm coming home from work and I get stopped by the bus coming down from McKinley letting the kids off. And, you have AOK staff on it, and the staff is I watch them making contact with the parents. That relationship that they've built, the kids that get off that bus are happy. They've had a good time. And that's what we want for, all of our children in the community, to have those same opportunities in sports and in the arts, because I know it's not all sports. You have them doing skits and you have them experiencing music and dance. So it's, I'm so pleased that our city supports this, that our school district that we're partnering, because those are all of our children. And if we don't take care of them, then the rest of it really doesn't matter too much. So thank you for everything and for all the years of it.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
I really believe, and I've seen this in other communities, it's it's great to see you're partnering with the school district, because that does not happen in a lot of communities. There's too many conflicting interests. So you're to be commended that partnership is just so strong. Yes, Mr. Trentacosti?
Thank you both for your presentations. I really enjoyed them both. I did have a question for Mrs. Smith, though. You have lots of teams up there, and I noticed that the Hope Schools are not on there, and I'm wondering if there's ever been a discussion or investigation on including those.
I've tried to get Hope's, Madam Chair and Commissioner Trentacosti, sorry. I've had tried to get Hope involved. My children attended Hope, or actually my daughter still does. We do have Monte Vista and Via Valley that participate in our programs. Greg Stevens from Via Valley has been the key. So that's the challenge, is finding that key person in the school to spearhead the recruitment of the kids. We use volunteer coaches. I do know the PE teacher personally. He's a friend of mine, and I'm trying. But It's just that key personal. I do know a lot of the Hope kids, as far as basketball goes. They play at the Page Youth Center, the YMCA, and so on. So we encourage anybody and everybody that wants to participate in our leagues to join. It just makes our leagues that much better.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't notice them on the list there, but maybe I can work with you with Ethan on the getting Hope involved.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Mr. K-Spear.
This morning, I was listening to NPR as I was preparing for my day, and I was dismayed to hear that the fastest growing segment in the criminal justice system are young girls. And so when I hear you report that the number of girls participating in these programs, this is the greatest bang for our buck that we can get, to give these girls an opportunity to learn through sports how to interact, how to, control their tempers and be good citizens. So the future is in your hands, and I commend you both. Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? Yes, Ms. Yee.
Madam Chair, I would also like to say thank you for the work that you are doing with the youth. I was a member of RAP, and I love to see the inclusion program that has been formed. It looks amazing. And also my dad still volunteers at Monroe School, so he has heard of the sports after school. And so I've heard of the positive influence it's giving to the children. And youth programs are very crucial for the keeping kids on the right track and getting ready for high school and college community service. So I want to say thank you for all you've done. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have any? No? I just wanted to ask, why is soccer up 94%? Is it in participation since FY10? Is that?
Madam Chair, to be honest, when we first started the program 3-4 years ago, I didn't put a whole lot of effort into it. I started out we were just using corner flags for goals and just getting the kids signed up and playing. So that's kind of how it started. I got a call from a mother from Adelante, and she said, this is great, it's free, but you're treating it like a free program. And that was kind of an eye-opener for me. And so put more effort into where we're playing, which most of our games now are at Dwight Murphy Park. We're using full-size goals, and we have 3 fields at the same time, which makes it a very good atmosphere for the kids and the parents and the coaches. Everybody's there. So it's a lot more fun. And then again, that's one reason, I think, or 2 reasons. And the other one's, again, the coaches. They're buying into it. They enjoy it. Corey, the coach from Cold Springs, he was never a soccer guy before. He's always participated in our flag and basketball programs. And last year he joined, and he loves it. The kids love it. So just more emphasis, more effort, and just building on, each year. So I think it's going to continue to grow.
Thank you. Well, it's obviously working. Again, I just, reading this report, the partnerships, besides, the school district, the Family Services Agency, PAL, City of Goleta, the list just goes on and on. So thank you to you both and to staff for everything you do to make these partnerships huge successes, which obviously they are. No. And thank you for the report. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 8, which is the annual contributions report for FY 2012, and that's Ms. Zachary.
Chair Wiscombe, members of the commission, I'm going to provide this report, but I want to kick it off with, this is the work of many staff in the department, and I just get to do some of the presentation. The information that's in your report is something we gather on a quarterly basis, so we pull it all together, you'll see it reflected in our performance measures in the next presentation. And you receive this report annually. So some of our new members, this is your first time. And let's start with, we'll talk a little bit about the sources of contributions. We'll talk about how that plays out across our divisions, and then a little bit of history. What you'll notice in the presentation and in your report, in addition to the types of sources, you'll see that each division gravitates more or less to different types depending on the type of work that division does. In some cases, grants are much more easy, I wouldn't say easy, that's the wrong word, might be acquired because they're project-based and because they're addressing a critical, what's been determined by the state or the federal government as a critical issue, such as water quality. Now, a lot of elbow grease goes into actually getting the money, as we know, versus other things that happen locally, volunteers or non-cash donations that really rely on the people in Santa Barbara to step up and help us do what we do. And depending on the program and the focus, that also varies as well. So for the administration division, that's really our project management team. That houses our capital program, as well as providing support to other programs. And in the last year, we received 2 grants, one from the Coastal Conservancy, the State Coastal Conservancy, for the Mesa Lane Steps project. I'm happy to report that construction is well underway. We said mid-November. I think it really will be mid-November, that we'll be out there with the scissors and the ribbon with the mayor and council and commissioners and the public. We've got a little bit more work to do before we're ready to commit to that date, but it's moving along and we're really pleased with the progress. And then the California Department of Fire and Forestry, it's State Department, they have grant programs, Proposition 84, if you remember voting for that. We received a grant for the Urban Forest Management Plan project that we're working on. So you'll see that the focus there is going out and acquiring money for a very specific purpose, very specific project. It's geared to an agency that funds that type of work. When we look at the Creeks Division, you just got a great report from Cameron Benson. And I have to add, having been involved in that as the manager for the first 6 years of the program and what's happened subsequent to that, the acquisition of grant funding's only grown. And it was at a time we thought it would actually be on the decline. But the scope and focus of the types of projects that are funded has changed over time as well. So the parking lot projects didn't do that 8 years ago. There's an evolution of that type of funding that's also occurred. Cameron mentioned the Mission Creek Fish Passage project. I'd like to note that, of the 2 major grants they got last year, one was from the California Department of Fish and Game, just over $1.7 million. If I recall correctly, that's the 5th grant that we've gotten from that state agency for fish projects. So leadership, innovation, follow-through has turned it into additional funding. And then the Wildlife Conservation Board funding last year for the Mission Creek projects, we actually also got a Wildlife Conservation Board grant for the Arroyo Estuary Restoration Project. So again, we're building on past successes in that. And he also mentioned the new parking lot projects, and I'd like to briefly just say one of the advantages to that type of project is it improves our facilities. We never have funds to fix parking lots. You remember what Mackenzie Park parking lot looked like 18 months ago? Well, go to Oak Park and look at the parking lot there. And that project, which you'll get a presentation in the future, actually addresses all the hard spaces in that park. So it's also the picnic areas. So it's pretty phenomenal that they've managed to leverage that kind of grant funding for that project. At the same time, you might see less in terms of volunteer hours and non-cash donations. The type of work that they fund from other sources really goes to these big capital projects. The Parks Division does get a lot of outside funding and grants too, and has been really successful over the years. through the Community Development Block Grant Program, the drainage improvements, long needed drainage improvements for Cabrillo Ball Field are going in this year. We've gotten grant funding in the past to put in playgrounds on Eastside Neighborhood Park. We've gotten grants before for improvements to Ortega Park. Every year we receive support from Santa Barbara Beautiful for our urban forestry program. More recently, at your last commission meeting, you heard about the Pearl Chase Society providing funding for the Mission Aqueduct Wall. And so you see for this last year, it's close to $200,000 that have come in for projects that improve our parks and facilities. Volunteer hours, those are the people that are in our parks. This is we had 3,300 volunteer hours last year. So this year we had just over 500 more volunteer hours. These are people coming out on their Saturdays, doing something that they might not have done before. Day of Caring is increasingly becoming a key focus of our volunteer efforts. In the Recreation Division, they have received grants and cash donations from small amounts for little projects to larger amounts. Concerts in the Park is one of the ones that's always held up as a community-funded cash and grants and project. And these are all local organizations that are supporting. They're not a state agency. They're not a federal agency coming in and supporting a big project. These are local agencies investing in Santa Barbara and in recreation programs. And so that allows us to leverage where we go. At the same time, you'll see that grants and cash donations are a little bit smaller in value compared to the other types of contributions that recreation gets, which are critical in terms of volunteer hours to help fund programs that are going on. And a good amount of these volunteer hours also, supports, for example, our senior programs. When you look at the year in total, it looks like we had a really great year. Across the board, almost $3.5 million in cash grants, non-cash volunteer support to implement our projects and programs in our department. And as you see this spread across, obviously Creeks shows the big chunk of change when it comes into grants. Recreation shows a big chunk that comes in with volunteers, non-cash, and then there's cash that also comes in. So all of that combined give us really allow us to move forward. I think that would represent, if you took out golf and Creeks, 14 million. It's probably, my math skills aren't very good because at the end of the day, but it's a good chunk, 20% relative to what we already fund. Looking at us over the years, things are variable. You'll see, 2009, 2.3, 2010, 5.7. That was the year of the ARA funding from the federal government. If you remember, some big chunks of money for the project, the stormwater project at the golf course, for example. 2011, a solid year as well. And then you look at 2012, and we're right back up there. Chances are, hopefully, 2013 will be a really great year as well. And then when you look at it by division, again, it just shows you how it varies based on the type of support that a division might get for the type of project or program that they're involved in. And that's the beauty of it, because we actually we all have different ways of finding ways to support our programs. They're not all cross-competing with each other. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Zachary. That was great. Commissioners, any questions?
I do have a question. Do you keep track of commission hours? Are we considered volunteers? Okay. Do we come in under administration? Okay. I was wondering if we were a help or a liability in that one. Do we take time or?
A little bit of both, but. Okay. Anyone else have questions or comments? Ms. Alley?
I'd just like to say thank you for the thorough presentation, and as a new commissioner, I'm continue to be impressed with the growth and the ways that you leverage funds. It's really impressive, so thank you again.
Anyone else? Mr. Casebeer.
As Ms. Rapp mentioned earlier, these grants don't come out of thin air. It's a lot of hard pick and shovel work year after year, lots of disappointment, turn downs, rejections, and you just keep coming back. We just maintain our programs. We have a good message to sell. And so it's the staff that, they sit in their cubicles and we wonder, well, you are doing something very special. And it shows right up there. So thank you.
Anyone else? I'd like to say thank you. I think, your initial comment, Ms. Zachary, was that this is staff's work, and it really does show. I'm very impressed by FY 2012 versus FY 2010, which was so much of that was federal money, right, in FY 2010. So this year, last year, sorry, FY 2012, you have this almost $3.5 million has come from a lot of different places, which is really great testimony to what's going on. I mean, that speaks 1,000 words, I think, to see that number so high and know that, it's a little bit, $71,000 here from CAL FIRE and, $5,000 here from Pearl Chase and, this and that, and $20,000 from Santa Barbara Beautiful, and it's come from a lot of different places and obviously represents a lot of hard work. So thank you to you and staff for continuing it. Yes, Mr. Casepier.
And just a quick one. The disappearance of community block grant funds in the future it just really adds to the importance of grant funding to keep our vitality alive and well. And so it's a really important part of our jobs. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Zachary. Appreciate it. Okay. We're on to agenda item number 9, which is FY 2012 annual P3 performance measurement report. And I think, Ms. Rapp, did you have a brief presentation on this, or this is really for our information?
Yes, I would, Chair Wiscombe and Commissioners. Since we have some new commissioners, I'd like to just talk a little bit about what the performance measurement program is, although please don't ask me what P3 stands for, because nobody can remember. It was an acronym that was created when we first implemented the program, and we have called it P3 for so long that we don't even remember what the 3 Ps were. But it is actually a performance measure program that is associated with the annual budget that's approved by City Council. So every year when we put together our budget, we are also putting together our performance measurement plan for the year. So basically what this plan says is you're going to give us this much money and we're going to provide this for that money. And it's a way to measure the success program by program by program. And so over the years, you'll see changes. Most especially in Parks and Recreation, you'll see changes on the recreation side based on trends. So you'll see some increases in some programs, decreases in other programs. Over the years, especially the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen declines in our budget, which has meant that we've not been able to meet the same service level targets over the years. So the service level targets have gone down. We don't have as much money to work with, so we're not able to this one comes to mind. It's not necessarily the one that we choose, but we don't clean the park restrooms as often if we have less money, although we try to keep that high. But that's the example. So we track this information on a quarterly basis, but we do the reports on a semi-annual basis. And so what you have in your packet is actually the conclusion of last year. And so program by program, for our performance measures, we try to choose the measurable objectives that really describe about 75% of the key activities of that particular program, whether it's administration or aquatics or beach maintenance. So you should be able to get a pretty good feel of what the staff in those programs are doing over the year. And we like to show the comparison to how we did the previous year. So you can kind of get a feeling for, are things up, are things down, and how is it going? So we're really proud of the department because we achieved 87% of our objectives for last year. There were years when we were in the 70s, and part of that is, your targets, having staff work to set realistic targets because you're trying to challenge yourself to, do better every year, and yet be realistic. And part of it is you set objectives for achieving various projects that maybe don't get done, either they didn't get done at the time that we had planned that we were going to get them done, they were done a little later, or different changing priorities over the year, and so something that was included in the plan gets put off while we do a higher priority. So, and sometimes it's just simply that participation is down because of a particular trend or something like that. But 87%, we're pretty proud of that. So I did not plan to go through and talk extensively about each of the different programs, but we do have staff here, and if you have particular questions, we're happy to answer them. And I think as we begin the 2-year budget process, and we'll be bringing to you the performance measurement for FY14, you'll see how that process works associated with the budget. And then probably in January, we will be wrapping up our performance semi-annual report for this fiscal year that we're in. So you'll get that information as well. So we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Rapp. Just for the benefit of new commissioners, the fiscal year in the city is July 1st to June 30th. So what you're looking at is results that include that period of time, and it's always referred to as FY 2012 would be, through June 30th, 2012. So we are in FY 2013 now, in case someone didn't know that. But does anyone have any comments? Ms. Longstreet.
I know how hard this program was to start, and I remember the kind of the torturous time. It's interesting now to see what we're getting out of it, though. And I think 87% is wonderful, and I wouldn't ever expect it to be much higher because I think that probably you weren't challenging yourself as much. I think that's the truth of it and the reality. But I'm looking at as an example of that is our facilities rentals. And I think it's interesting because it tells us a lot more than it isn't about the staff. Sometimes it's about our facilities. And it can give us really good information on maybe a facility that's needs some attention, that where we need to put our dollars in maintenance. And there's a lot of things we get out of this that are very helpful. And I think always achieving, especially in something as concrete as this. And I know it has spurred a lot of marketing for these different areas. So a lot has come out of this that's really positive. And also, I think it's really helped us in the planning. So I appreciate the work that you do to keep these numbers up. It isn't easy. And I think we do learn a lot. So thank you.
Just to add on to that, you're talking about all the information that comes out of the report. You look at the Carrillo Rec Center, for example, too, on the other side of that coin, in terms of the renovation of the facility and the results that it's producing. So that was dollars really, really well spent, because it's off the charts in terms of, and that's not only because of the renovation of the facility, it's because of the staff that's there and the hard work that's been done. But there's a lot of good information that you can present a positive story on also. Does anyone else have any? Yes, Mr. Trentacosti?
I do. Since I took the time to go through all this, I feel like I need to make a comment. But first of all, I want to add on to what Ms. Longstreet said. Bill Hewlett once said, "What gets measured is what gets measured is what gets done," and I think that's why these metrics are very important, because it does show what we're planning to do and measures what happens as a result of that. And going through here, I think these were very realistically set expectations. As is done in business, the idea is to have achievable yet stretchable goals. And I think these are very realistic. 87% should be commended, because it's a great success rate, but it shows it wasn't a sandbag number as well. So congratulations on achievements from last year, and good luck for this year.
Anyone else have any comments? I just say, yeah, I echo that comment. I think that's great, and that's versus 81% in FY 2011. So I think that was the number then. And it's important to note what Ms. Rapp said, which was, there are objectives here that have not been achieved, and some of them are, and that represents part of the 87%, or the 13%. For instance, the dissolution of RDA. And so and that was in reference to the Cabrillo Bathhouse Business Plan. So that objective wasn't met, and, it doesn't get put in the 87% category because we don't have any RDA funds anymore. So, and then my only other comment on my personal favorite, Ms. Zachary, is I know and this is another thing Ms. Rapp said, was that some things get put off, and like the volunteer program got put off in favor of something that I don't even remember what it was now. But, okay. Well, I hope, somewhere in the report it said it got put off because of something else was taking place, and I won't find it in here now. So,
well, just to be clear, it all comes down to funding for staff to do the work, and that was really at the base of it.
Okay.
Changing
well,
priorities and funding.
Yeah, I hope it comes back sometime in the future, because I think it can be a really important component of. I mean, I know we have a lot of volunteer, it's a big asset in our community, the number of volunteer hours that are put in, but it would be nice to be able to manage that and really grow that program, because I know staff is it's hard to do a lot of volunteer activities now with limited staff time, et cetera, and other competing priorities. So, Ms. Zachary, did you have something? No. Okay. So, I think, And the other thing that came out of this, which was really, it was, it goes back to, I read somewhere in here that there was a video done for Parks and Rec for, that was shown on the Metropolitan Theater screens in town. And that was one of the objectives, and that got done. And it just got me thinking, I wonder if that could be done at the golf course, for the golf course, a same type of thing. So I talked to Ms. Rapp about that, and that was something. So there's, going back to Ms. Longstreet's comments, there's a lot of things that can come out of this report if you really, kind of hash it through and read it carefully. And it works, a lot of good vibes come out of it. So congratulations, and thank you very much for that. And I think we are done for the evening. Our next meeting is November 28th. Yeah, this says October 24th, yeah. No, that's all right. Okay, so the next regular meeting is Wednesday, November 28th, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, don't all rush at that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great, we're adjourned.